It's a brand new season for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and it starts here at Circuit Paul Ricard at Le Castellet, about 40 kilometres east of Marseille. Welcome along. My name's Johnny Palmer, joined as always by the editor of dailysportscar.com, Graham Goodwin, and we're set for the first qualifying session of the year. The Michelin Le Mans Cup first came into being only in 2016, when it was for GT3 cars only, and then 2017 saw the introduction of LMP3s, baby prototypes, if you like. So it is a two-class series championship, and therefore qualifying is sliced into two different sections, two 15-minute chunks, in fact. And first of all, Graham Goodwin, we've got some very pretty GT3 cars that are about to be unleashed onto this brand new tarmac, we should remember as well.
Yeah, you can see that, can't you? Very, very dark grey. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back, isn't it? Actually, still just about good morning. It will be 7 GT cars to start this session, most of which are going to be of the Ferrari sort. Just a solo Porsche from EB Motors. One howling Ferrari 458 still. A little bit of maintenance there on the floppies to mark the track limits. They've taken a bit of a pounding in what's been a very long week here at Paul Ricard. We're getting now to what is actually the first competitive session on track. That is the 458, by the way, from the San Marino Stila F Squadra Corsa team, number 69 car. But well, hours and hours and hours of track action this weekend. Still lots of it to come, and by the time we leave on Sunday evening, Johnny Palmer, it will be 66.5 hours of sports car action under the wheels of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, ELMS, and prior to that, the FIWC for their prologue. Yes,
quite an undertaking for the Automobile Club de l'Ouest, who have been looking after, well, a World Endurance Championship prologue to kick off this motor festival, if you like, and we've had an ELMS prologue on Wednesday, saw the prologue for these cars, the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Sadly, rain was rather the theme of that day, and has been for the majority of this week. It's been hosing it down for days on end, and you come to the south of France, don't really expect that sort of weather. I'm delighted to say it is dry today, fair bit of cloud cover as you can see, but thankfully no more precipitation. We're expecting the odd shower through the course of today, possibly to affect tomorrow's European Le Mans Series race as well. But thankfully we seem to be through the worst of it now, Graham, and you've been here for, what, 10 or 11 days or more?
I'm now developing some French habits, and it's not a nice place to be. And it has not been a very nice place to be the last couple of days. It's yeah, it will be something like 14 days by the time we start to make our way back up through France on the long drive home. It's had its moments, and it's about to get serious again. The session, we are told, will start on time. That'll be in just over a minute's time. The 51 car there, that's yet another of the cars that's going to be run by Castellet Racing. A couple of familiar names aboard that car. Actually, that's not. Sorry, that is that's the Spirit of Race car. Still a little bit of maintenance going on outside on the track, but that will be done in time for the cars to be released. 14 degrees centigrade in the air. Cooling breeze, though, again, and it's been like that for much of the week. Howling gales just a few days ago, and that damaged some of the trees along the Mistral. Stripped away an awful lot of foliage and actually broke off substantial chunks of tree, just as you get down towards Seine, the end of the Mistral Strait.
So this is the Circuit Paul Ricard at Le Castellet. Of course, announced last year was the return of the French Grand Prix, which arrives here the weekend after Le Mans, in fact. So not a long wait at all for Formula One cars to return to this place. Built in 1969, opened in 1970, and we're using the full length of Mistral Strait this year, unlike 2017.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. GT3 qualifying has started. GT3 qualifying session of the Michelin Le Mans Cup has started.
And for the first time this season, we hear the dulcet tones of our race director, Eduardo Freitas. Eduardo in place, of course, once again for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, as well as the ELMS to follow tomorrow, and leading the train of cars out from pit lane. The returning champions in this class, EB Motors, but you will notice that's not the Lamborghini that they campaigned last year. They move over to an all-Porsche lineup, and EB Motors with their number 88 car, and actually just ducking out of the train there, letting the Ferraris go. We'll see another EB Motors Porsche when it gets to European Le Mans Series qualifying later today.
If you've not caught any Michelin Le Mans Cup racing previously, by the way, the onus is very much on the bronze driver in the two-driver combination, so much so that the bronze has to do the qualifying, and therefore quite responsibility is put on the shoulders of said driver. Some of the combinations include two bronzes, so there's a bit of a choice to be made there. But no prizes for guessing that it's Sergio Pianazzola in the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari. He shares with Giacomo Piccini, who is actually a gold driver, the 33-year-old Italian. So Pianazzola is doing the qualifying in this race, or for this race rather. The 50 car will have at the wheel John Hartshorn of the UK. Spirit of race number 51 has Christoph Ulrich, who's sharing with Maurizio Mediani. Then there is a decision to be made at the number 69 crew. Martin Grab it is, but it could equally have been Yoshiki Omura, the Japanese driver. Both bronzes in the Stila F Squadra Corsa, as Graham's already mentioned, a team from San Marino using a slightly older Ferrari, but it's fabulous to have that in the field. The 71 AF Corsa Ferrari, that will be Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, who shares with Marco Ciocci come this afternoon's race. Claudio Schiavone in the number 77 Kessel Racing Ferrari, and it is Alessandro Baccani in the EB Motors Porsche. His co-driver Paolo Venerossi is also a bronze, so it might be that Venerossi gets an opportunity to qualify later on in the season. Remember that this championship more or less shadows the movements of the European Le Mans Series. They don't go to Silverstone, and instead have a couple of one-hour races, or near enough one-hour races, at Le Mans during the 24 hours weekend. But it's Paul Ricard to kick things off. Then they travel to Monza in Italy in May, the two races at Le Mans in June, and then to Austria and Red Bull Ring, Spa in Belgium, and they finish their season in October at Portimao in Portugal. The 15 minutes well underway, and fast laps starting to come through.
Yes, and it's Sergio Pianazzola in the number 8 Kessel Racing car that will be the first to complete a flying lap. Goes through to complete sector 1 now, and well, we don't really know, because all they're running so far, Johnny, has been in pretty wet or just drying conditions. This is the first time these teams will have had an opportunity to lap here in full dry conditions. No rain today. That cooling breeze is also drying out the remaining wet bits around the property here. Very different look, by the way, on the infield now, with lots of changes ahead of that French Grand Prix.
Yes, a fair bit of infrastructure that needed updating. After, I mean, Formula 1 racing hasn't been here since the early 90s, and the track needed certainly upgrading a little bit. But great to have a French Grand Prix back again on the calendar. But the European Le Mans Series has been visiting this place for several seasons now, and Michelin Le Mans Cup made it its home very quickly too, after this championship came into being in 2016. A home really for the GTC category that once was part of the ELMS, and that drummed up interest in the GT3s, but LMP3 has really exploded, and I make it 22 LMP3s that are here this weekend.
Yeah, we had a couple more actually in testing, so we may well see some of those cars join in the fun later in the season. But the overall entry for the race, 28 cars.
Yeah.
Lost one, I'm afraid, yesterday with an injury for Ross Warburton for the second RLR car. That means no doubling up for Alex Capadia. So hope that heals up soon, Ross. I'm sure you're watching. So
the San Marino crew, Stila F Squadra Corsa, going over the line. Martin Grab, the Swiss, doing the driving. And number 69 to the top of the chart to 203.3. Slotting in behind is Sergio Pianazzola with a 203.7. And then it's Pier Giuseppe Perezzini in the AF Corsa 488. Number 71 going third fastest. But interestingly, each of those three drivers all have an absolute best in each of the sectors. That's very quickly going to change, though.
It's a lot quicker this time around from Pianazzola. 2 seconds up on the best time we'd seen previously in Sector 1. And indeed, he was weaving down the Mistral on his first, well, what could have been a flying lap, so this should be a pretty dramatic improvement. I expect to see that, Johnny, through this session, with particularly his bronze drivers not having had that dry time here. They're just finding out where the grip really is, and it'd be a lot more grip today than they had on Wednesday.
And it is fascinating to watch the learning process for these bronze drivers as they get used to the car and the track in its drier configuration. And you see them improve across qualifying, across the weekend as a whole, and then through the season, really. And it's fascinating to see drivers who aren't professional race car drivers, but getting more and more used to the car underneath them and how this championship works, and also how they weave into the team and the driving combination.
We have seen it, haven't we? We saw throughout the in and out entries from the Optimum Motorsport team with Flick Hay becoming something of a qualifying specialist. And Johnny, we saw what that could lead to with Flick, with massively improved form, making her this year the first ever female pole setter and race winner in awful conditions at Alton Park. This is a great training ground for those bronze drivers. To the top of the times, meanwhile, and by a distance, by what's that, 4.5 seconds, under 2 minutes for Sergio Pinazzola, the number 8 Castellet racing car. The 458, by the way, in the hands of Martin Grab, does pit. EB Motors Porsche had pitted as well, so we're still waiting for a flying lap from that car.
So Grab's best effort at 203.331 means that that car's now 4th fastest and in the pit lane, as Graham mentions. So I think the plan is to get that car back out again. They're just making some adjustment down at the team. Maybe Martin not quite happy with something as a red Ferrari crosses the line and starts another lap. So what does that change in the order? Christoph Ulrich, 51. That is Christoph indeed, in one of the brand new 488s, up to 2nd fastest. But by far the star at the moment is Sergio Pinazzola, 1.1 seconds quicker than anybody else, and in provisional pole for the GT3s.
And going quicker this time around, 2 more purple sectors in the bank already for the number 8 car. Perezzini as well as improving. There goes the 69 car. Yep, fires up the normally aspirated V8. Away it goes. So this looks at the moment to be pretty firmly in the hands of Pinazzola. 6 minutes, just under 7 minutes left of the session. 51 car in the hands of Christoph Ulrich, giving chase, but dropping tenths on the first sector there. The more experienced Giuseppe Perezzini, of course, with Le Mans form, one of 2 drivers in this session. He was raced at the Le Mans 24 Hours, John Hartshorne being the other one. So quicker time coming, but it's a quicker time again for Pinazzola into the 57th this time, a 1:57.856. That is over 2 seconds to the good.
Come the race later on, you don't have to start your bronze driver for the opening stint. It can be your gold to get the car into a good position and then hand over to the non-professional. And it's a 10-minute pit lane window, effectively, because each driver has to do a minimum of 55 minutes of driving. So if the bronzes go in first, you would think they'll run to pretty much 55 minutes, as close as they can do to that. Get the car in, driver changed, and then send it back out again for the second half of a 2-hour race. 5 minutes and 40 seconds, though, to continue to decide the order. And Sergio Pinazzola, who will be sharing with Giacomo Piccini later, is putting that Kessel Racing Ferrari in the prime position.
Yeah, 5.5 minutes remaining. You said it a little earlier, Johnny, in the session, just what the learning process is like for these bronze drivers. Well, I'm looking at that in very real terms on the timing screens, because every single sector for the top 4 drivers in this session is either blue or purple. That means they're either improving their time or putting in an ultimately fastest time. At the moment, it's Pinazzola again going quicker. It's the same now for both Kessel Racing and EB Motors. The only exception to the rule is the Stila F Squadra Corsa, and that's because it's an outlap. So everybody improving everywhere as this session goes through, and that's exactly what this is all about. Interesting stuff now, because Pinazzola has lost that provisional pole position to a flying lap from Pier Giuseppe Perezzini with a great middle sector in that lap. He nicks it by 0.4 of a second. Pinazzola, though, is, I think, going quicker this time.
Well, I've just noticed that Perezzini has kind of got a running mate, the 71 car, I reckon, circulating with somebody else, and down the Mistral straight. I think that's exactly what you need if you can utilise a tow from another car. Replay of a number 8 going a little bit wide out of Virage du Pont. and car 4, no, lap 4, and car 8. So car 8's going to have its 4th lap deleted for abusing track limits, and that was turn 14, which is the final corner, I believe. So there was the replay of that incident.
That's why Perezzini took pole position briefly, but it was grabbed back by Pianezzola on his very next lap.
So an example of needing to keep all 4 Pirelli tyres on the, or at least a couple of them, the right side of the white line. You can use the curb, remember, but you can't get all of the car the wrong side of that white line that distinguishes the track from the runoff area.
I think you'll find the Michelins.
What did I say?
What were you going to say?
Okay, good. Michelin tyres, I meant to say. Hence the name Michelin Le Mans Cup. It's funny when you think something and something entirely different comes out of your mouth. I'll rewind that later on tonight for a laugh. 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go, and the 88 car is needing to improve here. EB Motors car, driven by Alessandro Beccani.
It's going to improve and improve pretty dramatically. Sits solidly 7th and last in the session at the moment. Goes through now to 4th. And those gaps are coming down with 3 minutes to go. It is 0.749 of a second. The number 8 Kessel Racing car, Pianezzola, ahead of Perezzini, ahead of Ulrich, Baggiani, Schiavone, Hartshorn and Amura. You're absolutely right, by the way. They did do a driver change in that number 69 car.
Yeah, well, that's one of the teams that can do that with 2 bronzes in the lineup. The 71 is indeed circulating with not a team car. So AF Corsa is the 71, but Perezzini has found
69, I think.
Schiavone, no, it's the 77 that has the 71 together, and then the 69 is running around with another car, but it was Perezzini who's now overtaken Claudio Schiavone. So got some useful times from shadowing that car. Now decided to do a few laps in front. Just over 2 minutes to go. And beginning another lap is car 69, driven by Yoshiki Omura in the Stila F Squadra Corsa number 69 Ferrari.
Watch the time for that EB Motors car, though. This is a quick lap in prospect here from the Porsche, the number 88 car. It is up on the pole time here.
Sergio Pianezzola may have an opportunity to improve again because he is shadowing Omura down the Mistral straight. So has that hole in the air being punched for him. He can be sucked along down that long back straight and into the fast right-hander at turn 8.
Perezzini is going quick here. Baggiani is going quick here. And the 458 in the hands of Amura is going quickly here as well. This could all change. It's inside 90 seconds left from this session. Here comes the Porsche. What can they do? 4th quickest at the moment, crosses the line. And it's that final sector. Didn't improve. It was a poor final sector from the EB Motors car. Stays 4th quickest.
1 minute to go, and some cars still set for improvement because Christoph Ulrich is finding speed on this lap. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini a little quicker through sector 1 in the number 71 Ferrari. There he is, working his way around turn 8 and into 9. What happened here though for Christoph Ulrich? Or rather Beccani, Alessandro Beccani in the Porsche, just a little bit ragged on the exit of Virage du Pont, which is turn 14, but he managed to keep 2 of the Michelin tyres at the right side of the white line. Ooh, possible track limit issue there for the 51 of Christoph Ulrich. He was well off the road, although using the curb, so that might be permitted. 20 seconds to go. So who might be able to sneak an extra lap out of this? Pier Giuseppe Perezzini will, yes, just about make it onto another lap, and it's going to be close for Claudio Schiavone, but I reckon the Italian can also get onto one more. So the first car home then to see a checkered flag will be Christoph Ulrich in this 51 Ferrari, with the checkered flag now being waved. And
that's a bit of track limits at the end of the lap as well, I think, there for the 51. It might well be an improved time for Christoph Ulrich. It is. It's a 1:58.018. If he's allowed to keep that current lap of car 51, we see immediately from Eduardo Freitas is under investigation. 3rd quickest at the moment, but Pianezzola on his final lap is putting in purple sector in the first sector. Perezzini quicker as well. So this could be a battle to the flag for pole position between those 2 cars. Sergio Pianazzola for Castle Racing. Giuseppe Prezzini for AF Corsa, 8 and 71, identical cars.
So at the moment, the top three are all Ferrari 488s. The first non-Ferrari is the Porsche from EB Motors, fourth fastest, and Alessandro Baccani does not improve. So he's locked into fourth, or certainly no better than that position. Is there an opportunity for Claudio Schiavone to skip ahead and maybe onto that second row? Sergio Pianazzola is up again in this lap. Absolute best through sector 1, a personal best through sector 2. Can he finish it off? Careful not to run the car out too wide out of turn 14. And here comes Pianazzola then for Kessel Racing, and he does improve on the final lap. He already had provisional pole. Surely that will cement it. A 1:57.1 puts him nearly 0.6 of a second clear of Perezzini's time, although Pier Giuseppe is about to come around to complete this lap.
I think he's a little off, though, whether or not he can edge a little closer. Looks to me to be pretty secure pole position there for Pianazzola.
And Perezzini is across the line, but no improvement for the Italian, and Claudio Schiavone heads across the line as well to see the checkered flag. So it's going to be a first pole of the year for Kessel Racing and for Sergio Pianazzola, the Italian driver, sharing with Giacomo Piccini, and that two-tone Ferrari in a kind of purple and dark blue. Used to that, not typical Kessel Racing colours, but they've brought 3 Ferraris with them this weekend, and thankfully in very different livery, which always helps out us commentators. Pianazzola taking pole alongside the AF Corsa Ferrari 488 of Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, and that car will be shared later on with Marco Ciocci. And 0.594 of a second was the gap then between the 8 and the 71. The second row will be Spirit of Races 51 Ferrari of Christoph Ulrich alongside the Porsche from EB Motors of Alessandro Baccani, number 88. Fifth and sixth, cars 77 and 69. That's the Kessel Racing Ferrari of Claudio Schiavone, who he will share with Andrea Piccini, the 39-year-old Italian, later on for today's race, which starts at 4 p.m. local time, by the way, through till 6 o'clock. Stila F Squadra Corsa from San Marino will start from 6th place after they switched drivers. So both Martin Grab and Yoshiki Omura had a go at qualifying. And 7th in qualifying, John Hartshorn in the 3rd Kessel Racing Ferrari, his time at 2:02.4. So the cars are working their way now back to a very tight pit lane. It's a tricky entry here at the pit lane at Le Castellet, but there's also not a lot of real estate once you get into the pits proper. And that's going to have to be something that the teams bear in mind, just in terms of logistics, getting the car safely in and out and avoiding everybody else whilst you do so. Here comes the number 8 car to illustrate just how little room there is down there. And Sergio Pianazzola will have been celebrating all the way around on that slowing down lap, I'm sure. Brand new Ferrari for Kessel Racing, a team from Switzerland, running a number of Italians in the prancing horses. So that car now being wheeled back into position. Hopefully we'll be able to grab a word with Sergio Pianazzola in a moment or two, just to get a word on how elated he is, but a thumbs up there. And as you can see, Giacomo Piccini on the roof of the car is his co-driver, and I'm sure he will have been cheering him on throughout as well.
I think we should make clear that Giacomo Piccini was not physically on the roof of the car. That would be illegal under ACO regulations.
And quite a hindrance, you would think, as well.
Aerodynamically inefficient, but it is both Piccini brothers, of course, part of this effort with Kessel Racing. Andrea Piccini, the older of the two, in the other car. Andrea
in the 77. Giacomo Piccini due in the number 8 car. And will there be a little bit of strategy utilised for the race later on today? Maybe a sneaky gold to open the stint here and there. We have seen that in the past.
Johnny Molam, I recall, back in the days before we retired the 14th time.
Yes, that's right. Sharing with Ivor Dunbar. Was that 2 years ago? It was in the opening phase of the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
And Johnny and Ivor, by the way, were here for testing earlier this week ahead of their UK LMP3 Cup programme. So hope we will see them out at some point in LMP3 in the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Excellent. Little bit of track maintenance to be done. Just check those floppies and the marker boards so that the references are in place. This track first really came into being as a high-speed test track, so deliberately so. There's not a lot to hit if you do have a big moment. It's wide open spaces, but because of that, very tricky as you approach turn 1 at high speed to actually know where you brake and where you turn in. So there's a number of vertical reference points there and painted in day glow colours to pick them out from distance.
We're about to get underway, Johnny, with the second of the 2 qualifying sessions for Michelin Le Mans Cup. This time the track is going to be a tad more crowded because it's going to be the 21, yes, 21 LMP3 cars out for their 15-minute session in just a few moments' time.
But before we move on to the baby prototypes, as I trailed a short moment ago, we will be able to hear from Sergio Pianezzola after a cracking performance in qualifying. We can hear from him now with Charlie George down in the pit lane.
Well, actually, Sergio's still in the car, so I've taken the opportunity to grab a word with his teammate, Giacomo. And what a fantastic lap and what a fantastic way to start the season, pole position.
Yeah, he did an amazing job, really. The car was fantastic since yesterday. The team prepared it in a great way, but he really did a very, very good job. So I'm so proud of him, and now we're looking forward to the race, of course.
And of course, these were pretty much the first dry laps of the whole weekend, so really tough prospect for an amateur driver.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had the chance yesterday to do a few laps, but the team did an amazing job. They were immediately able to find the key of the setup of the car, and he was really happy about the car. So congratulations to the team and congratulations to Sergio. They did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is Giacomo Piccini. Apologies for that. And Sergio Pianezzola, no doubt, still in conversation with the team via the two-way radio, making sure that everything's done by the book at the end of qualifying. The last thing you want is to ruin it if you don't tick off all the check charts as far as the regulations are concerned. He may need to have the ride height of the car checked, and the team may have to give a fuel sample as well. All these things after the session you have to bear in mind so as not to undo all your hard work in that 15 minutes. Another quarter of an hour then for qualifying for the LMP3s, and some new teams to get our minds around, including DB Autosport have brought 2 cars here this weekend, the 20 and the 21. Again, it's the same format, so expect bronze drivers to be qualifying. Jean-Ludovic Foubert, therefore, in the number 20 car. Here's the 21 machine from the other DB Autosport car then, and this will have Jacques Wolf driving it. He'll be sharing with French hill climb champion Nicolas Schatz come the race.
Yep, there's some familiar names, some familiar teams, but happily some that aren't so familiar. Here's one of the more familiar ones. This is the Acuria Cos Nielsen racing car, the 79 car. And that car lines up with Alistair McCaig, one of the British LMP3 Cup champions for the team. It's great to see that team here with 3 cars this weekend, 2 in this and 1 in the European Le Mans Series. DKR Engineering, returning champions of course, but with an all-new driver squad for DKR in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Jens Pettersson, experienced driver in ACO Rules Racing, and Leonard Hergenboom from the Netherlands, who has been very rapid indeed this week in testing.
To start LMP3 qualifying, under 1 minute to start LMP3 qualifying. Please ask drivers to abide by track limits. Please advise your drivers to abide by track limits.
It's our race director, Eduardo Freitas, once again. Quick glimpse there of the Trouillet car, because not only Eric is back for another season of racing in LMP3s, but joined by Adrien Trouillet this year too in a Norma M30 from Graf Racing.
And there's another Norma M30. This is from Lannon Racing, and believe you me, when that car comes around the final turn, it looks like nothing other than a Toyota TS050, particularly in the rain. Duncan Tappy and Michael Benham aboard that car.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. Qualifying for Michelin Le Mans Cup GT3 LMP3s has started. Qualifying for LMP3s has started.
Maybe a little bit of tactics from Lannon Racing to livery their car just like an LMP1 and intimidate the rest of the field. We also caught a very brief glimpse there of the Japanese team entry, TKS. They're Japanese flagged. They brought Ginetta Juno to the party, and we've not seen one of those cars racing in ACO rules racing for, well... No,
since Le Mans last year, because TKS raced their car at Le Mans last year with Shinya Sano. He is an ex-Asia Le Mans Series champion in the GT Cup category. Raced last year's series, it's the Winter Series, of course, the Asia Le Mans Series. In this car, ex-ARC Bratislava, and we've had a spinner, I think. We have had a spinner.
Already. It's the number 3 car.
It's a DKR car.
Yeah, from Luxembourg. So that's the number 3 car that did much of the winning last year with Alex Torrell and John Gloria. Different drivers, as Graham has already mentioned this time around. Jens Peterson then, he must be at the wheel of the car because he's the bronze, having a little bit of a loop in the early stages on cold tyres. And another one, in fact, a 30 car. The 30 car going for a spin. That's the CD Sport entry, and Anthony Pong at the wheel of that car.
Now, he's a very experienced racer, Anthony Pong. He actually has done some racing in ACO rules racing before now, but more widely known as a GT racer, GT4 and in one-make Porsche racing in France. SP3 Racing's 44 car. Here's Alvaro Fontes with its brand new team manager in place this weekend. Stanley Dickens, the 1989 Le Mans 24 Hours winner for Sauber Mercedes. See Stanley here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Cars completing now their effectively warming up lap. Remember, the same thing applies here. These guys have not had any dry running in these cars. That, by the way, is the second Nielsen car. And you'll notice the branding on the side, Red River Sports, that is indeed Johnny Molam's company. It's the car that was out testing earlier this week. 79 car here. That's not the 79 car, is it? That's the sister car.
It's the 2.
It's the 2. No, 2. Yes, it is. And it's Tony Wells.
There you go. I'm going to get confused by that car because it looks a little bit like a United Autosports machine, and United Autosports do run the number 2 on the side of their cars in some cases. United Autosports are part of this field, by the way. Look out for cars 22 and 23.
And 32.
And the 32, yes, because there are 7 United Autosports cars in total here this weekend. 4 being run in the European Le Mans Series across LMP2 and LMP3, and 3 in this.
Yep, 8 trucks made their way from Yorkshire. So that's how many T-banks they need to keep the 81 staff from Garforth. Just across the road from the Ginetta factory is the United Autosports, and it's an astounding record, by the way, in the European Le Mans Series that the LMP3 title has only ever been won by a team based on the same industrial park in Garforth.
Yes, because the Ginetta Juno returning in the Michelin Le Mans Cup reminds me of season 2015, which was the first year of LMP3, when Sir Chris Hoy and Charlie Robertson took the title for Ginetta as a works team. And they became the first ever LMP3 champions, therefore, and it was all Ginettas in that year for P3.
With one exception, we had Ligier late on in the year, didn't we? Ligier right at the death of the season at Estoril.
That's right. There's the 79, so the sister car at Ecurie Cos Nielsen.
Reasons the other car was confusing Nielsen because it did run the 79 in the ELMS test earlier this week. So lots of chopping and changing. So keep an eye on the numbers, because there are going to be a couple of duplicates across the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series this year. Already under 11 minutes to go. We are waiting for the first quick laps to appear. The first one to appear, and it's a 1-2, courtesy of the only 2 cars to complete a lap from the Ecurie Cos cars. Alistair McCaig immediately under 2 minutes, 1:59.872. These cars are going to go much quicker than that.
So Tony Wells first across the line, and his time over 2:02 immediately bettered. Who's next, though? It is Alvaro Fontes for SPV Racing. Alvaro sharing with Ricardo Sanchez, the Mexican driver, so it's a Spanish-Mexico combo there in car number 44. A 2:01.2 for Fontes. We have Jean-Ludovic Foubert slotting into 4th position for DB Autosports. Najaf Hussein for United Autosports, 5th fastest in car 32, and then the 2 Graf machines of Eric Trouillet and Adrian Schiller Three, in fact.
3 grab machines. One Norma, and 2 Ligiers this year for Graf Racing in this championship. The DKR car, by the way, has pitted after that spin at the start of the session. Let's hope there's no major dramas for that effort. This is the number 30 car. And that is the CD Sport car of Anthony Pons. The other car to have suffered a bit of a spin at the start of the session. Anthony's going through now, and this will be his first flying lap. And he pops up in 4th position, 2:03.073 in the mix. Times are improving all the way down across the board. Every sector, with the exception of the car that's pitted, and 21 cars, is blue or purple.
And that is really an example of how these non-pro drivers just slowly turn up the wick. They don't go crazy and try and do your best lap in your first time of asking. You want to work out what the car's doing this morning. Relatively coolish temperatures, 15 degrees Celsius ambient. The track's going to take a little while longer to heat up, and these Michelin tyres as well will just take a couple of laps to get up to full operating temperature. Best to start slowly, work your way into the session, and then get quicker and quicker. And they've got another 8 minutes to try and find a potential pole lap. The number 3 DKR engineering car, after its outlap spin, is now going to rejoin the session then.
It's a great mix, Johnny, looking down the team names here of returning teams from last season, new teams that we've not seen before in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and teams coming back after a while away. There's not been a longer gap in sports car racing than in Courier Costs in ACO Rules Racing. Great to see that name back and back at the top, because Tony Wells 157.2 from 157.3 Alistair McCaig. They've got about 0.4 of a second gap before we get into the first of the Graf Racing cars. And far front as it is in that SPV racing car. His teammate, by the way, Ricardo Sanchez, that is a name maybe some listeners, viewers actually recognise, one of the final winners of the Nissan GT Academy. And on camera at the moment in the middle there, with the headset on, that was Chris Warren, who looks after the LMP3 programme for Michelin Le Mans Cup for the United Autosports team, a previous championship winning team manager himself with Virgo Motorsport back in the day, when Jim McWhirter's efforts were run by Chris Warren, who's had a spell as the leader of the test team for McLaren. So CD Sport it is here. Anthony Pons, that number 30 car, has gone second quickest, 1:58.910. 0.044 of a second is the gap now to Michael Benham going to the top for Lannon Racing. Excellent run from Michael.
Yeah, did that last time around. So Lannon Racing in that very Toyota TS050-esque livery. Benham to the top, but now it's all changed again, because the Courier Costs by Nielsen cars have just come back across the line, and Tony Wells resumes then just where he left off a lap ago, basically. Back to pole position provisionally goes Tony Wells. Second place is Alistair McCaig, and here is the Tony Wells car there in slow motion with the Red River Sport support on the dorsal fin of that LMP3 car. So it's 2:79, the two team machines. Alvaro Fontes continues to find a bit of speed out there with 2 personal best sectors on his 4th lap of the session. So SPV Racing back to 3rd position, and yellow flags are out because of a spin, or a half spin, for, that is the 25, I think, of Michael Benham. So yellow flags briefly out at turn number 9. Let's have a look at what Michael did in the 25 machine. Just lost the back end after taking possibly a bit too much curb, but he was on a quick one up until that point. Michael Benham setting the best sector 1 time of anybody with 5.5 minutes to go, but he's going to have to do it all again. Hopefully that's not too far around the lap to disrupt his next one. He'll have opportunity to build up the speed again and try for a quick one on his 5th lap.
To the top goes the number 30 car, the Norma from CD Sport in the hands of Anthony Pons. It's 1:55.103. Tony Wells, though, is going quicker again on this lap. Is he going quick enough, though, to grab back that pole position? Under 5 minutes to go.
So Pons for CD Sport, the number 30 car fastest. Then it's Tony Wells for a Courier Costs. Alvaro Costa now up to third position in the number 99 car. So Alain Costa, I beg your pardon, for N-Race. We've not mentioned a great deal about N-Race, but they're back for a second season in the LMP3 category of Michelin Le Mans Cup, and Alain Costa due to be sharing with his silver-graded teammate Thomas Ackery once again.
This is heating up nicely. Back to the top goes Tony Wells, but going quicker again is the man he's just taken the provisional pole from, Anthony Pons. So it's now 0.4 of a second, 1:54.707 for Wells. He's 1:55.1 last time around, but 2 purple sectors from the number 30 Norma. So it is Ligier at the moment at the top. The Norma way quicker in a straight line though here this weekend than the Ligiers. It looks to me as if this is going to be a convincing run back to provisional pole from Pons this time around. Remember, spun out on the first lap. Has recovered that beautifully.
Meanwhile, the other car that spun on the outlap, Jens Pettersson in the DKR Engineering car, that is 16th, but we're expecting the number 30 car back across the line at any moment. What was this? A spin for, is that the 44?
That's 44, that's the SPV car.
So that car's been troubling the top 3. Alvaro Fontes has currently fallen down to 6th place though, and he won't be getting any better than that if he continues to loop the car. Just the first mistake for the 44 as the 30 car goes back across the line and back to provisional pole for Anthony Pont.
And by a chunk.
0.7 of a second, wow.
Yeah, that's a much quicker time. First man into the 153, so 1:53.989 is there going to be a response with the Kyrgios Nielsen squad and the number 2 car. Anthony Wells is in the final sector of this lap. Has not set purple times anywhere, is close, but I don't think he's quite close enough. The one I'm watching is the number 20 car, the DB Autosports car. That's another of the Normas, and that one is picking up speed as well. I think he's going to get amongst this lead group. At the moment, it's CD Sport from Kyrgios number 2, then the Lannon Racing Norma, then the second Kyrgios Nielsen car, then the 39 Graf.
And Jean-Ludovic Foubert doing a good job for DB Autosport to break into the top 6 as well. The 44 just looking a little bit ragged. All this contact there between the 44 and the 39 Graf racing car of Eric Trouillet. It looked like the 44 was making room for Eric, and then all of a sudden shut the door. So side-to-side contact during qualifying, no less. 2 minutes to go. I think both cars should be able to continue. There's a little bit of water on some of the camera lenses I'm noticing as well, so I wonder whether there's a little rain in the air that may be just psychological rain at the moment rather than affecting car performance.
Oh, dear me.
Yeah, I think there pretty much was side-to-side contact, just a graze. Thankfully, the driver of the 44, Alvaro Fontes, was able to see that car as the DKR Engineering car goes wide as well at turn 9, I think that was. So a moment for Jens Pettersson.
Yeah, they're in a ragged run, aren't they, in this qualifying session? Under 2 minutes to go. It's a new third place car, and this time it goes to the number 20 DB Autosports car. It's another Normas. Foubert with a 1:54.798 did make a big improvement. Michael Benham, having recovered from that spin a little earlier, is improving too. So we've got the top 5 cars within a second of each other. If it weren't for that lap by Anthony Pons, by the way, it would be about 3/10 between the 4 cars. Pons' efforts, that 1:53.989, looks for me to be a bit rich for everybody else's blood. Eric Trouillet, though, probably doesn't agree. He's looking to improve. At the moment, he's got about 1.1 seconds to find. Tony Wells has improved. He's clipped another 2/10 from the advantage of Anthony Pons. He responds immediately, the CD Sport driver, with a first sector in the purple range. But Tony Wells, I think, is winding up to something on this last lap as well, Johnny.
Jens Pettersson's going to have a lap deleted because of a track limits infringement. That's the 3rd lap of this session taken away from the number 3 DKR Engineering machine. And unsurprisingly, the contact between Alvaro Fontes and Eric Trouillet is under investigation. So we'll find out what happens with that, possibly after the session now, with only 25 seconds to go. Here comes another one of the Graf cars, number 65, being driven by Sergio Passian, the Italian. That car currently 10th fastest, but 10 seconds to go. Anthony Pont improves again through sector 1. It's an absolute best. He could shave another 10th of a second if he continues like this off his time for CD Sport. Over the line, probably the first to see the checkered flag will be the 65 car of Sergio Passia, and that is improvement from 10th place to 7th. There's plenty of cars behind that could yet leapfrog.
Best lap for the number 39 team car, though, from Graf goes third quickest now, Eric Trullier. In that Norma, the car that was involved in that brush. Jens Pettersson up into 4th in that DKR car. Anthony Pons finishes his session top of the tree. 4/10ths to find for Tony Wells. He's not going to manage that. He's lifted off in this lap. But still pushing. Trullier. Passian has finished, as you quite rightly say, Johnny. He cannot improve. Eric Trullier can. Needs to find half a second.
54.509 is Eric's best, but he's improved through sectors 1 and 2 in this. The 39 car just running a little wide there through the long right-hander at turns 9 and 10.
Alistair McCaig improves to 4th. He'll be on the second row of the grid by the look of things. Though Jens Pettersson might have something to say about that. Can Eric Trullier get onto the front row of the grid, or better?
Well, indeed. Well, you can't get much better than the front row, but I know what you mean. Pole position is the ideal. And here into Virage Dupont comes the 39 car then, up through sector 1, up through sector 2. Can he make it a clean sweep and maybe edge out Tony Wells? Across the line comes the 39.
Brilliant. He goes to pole.
Eric Trullier sharing with Adrien Trullier, snatching pole late on. We haven't yet seen everybody home. Jens Pettersson could yet surprise everyone for DKR Engineering. Certainly some improvement coming there from the number 3 car, which has great form. But Pettersson does improve, but doesn't improve his position. So he stays 5th, and that should just about seal everyone into their spots, because Naj Hussein over the line in the number 32 United Autosports car. But Eric Trullier, what a superb performance there from the Frenchman.
Fantastic stuff, and a little bit of history, because this is the first time that we'll have had an all-Norma front row in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It's the first time we've seen 2 Normas other than Le Mans. But the Graf 39 car, the CD Sport number 30, Eric Trullier and Anthony Pons, ahead of a second row composed of both of the Kyrgios Nielsen cars, Tony Wells and Alistair McCaig. The session ends with 5 cars separated by a single second. But that was one heck of a final lap run by Eric Trullier.
And the Kyrgios Nielsen cars were setting the pace early on. They're going to have to settle for looking at the second row, because it is Graf with their number 39 Norma M30 then taking pole position. Eric Trullier sharing with Adrien this weekend. 0.3 of a second clear of Anthony Pons in the CD Sport Norma M30. Then the Kyrgios cars 3rd and 4th, 2 from 79. Both of those cars Ligier JSP3s. The DKR Engineering car took a long time to get up to speed in that session, but will start from 5th place after Jens Pettersson was able to put a decent time in, and he'll be sharing with Leonard Hugenboom, as we've said, from the Netherlands later on in today's race. Then it's Adrian Schiller for Graf Racing in the number 40 car, ahead of Jean-Ludovic Foubert for DB Autosport. Michael Benham, provisional pole sitter during that session, but bumped down in the end to 8th place, had a spin as well. 9th position for Sergio Passian in the Graf car, and N-Race complete the top 10 with Alain Costa in the 99 machine.
Well, that was fun.
Wasn't it just? Sets the tone nicely, I feel, for the 2018 Michelin Le Mans Cup. For all the qualifying sessions are like that this year, then you gotta make sure that you're tuned in for Saturday lunchtime entertainment. Le Mans week, of course, very different. They'll be racing on the Thursday and the Saturday morning there for 2 55-minute races, but the rest of the year quite formulaic in the sense that it's a 2-hour race, and I think for every weekend on the Saturday afternoon. So, congratulations to Eric Trullier. We'll be chatting to Eric's son, I believe, Adrien Trullier, for some reaction after that pole position for Graf Racing down with Charlie George now.
Yeah, I'm down here with Adrien. You look very happy with that lap. Fantastic pole position to start the season.
Yes, I'm very happy for me and my father as well. We made a great job, and we are very, very happy today.
What conditions would you prefer for the race, dry or wet?
Oh, of course dry, because it's easier for us to drive in this condition, but Even if it's wet, we don't care. We can as well.
You can do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big smile for Adrien Trouillet, and also the double fist punch as well, because they left it so late. But Eric Trouillet will say afterwards, oh, it was all in hand. That was the plan, to leave it till the last gasp, and it meant of course that there was no time for any of the other cars to respond.
Another major multi-car effort as well from Graf Racing. 2 P2 cars in the European Le Mans Series, 3 LMP3 cars here, and here's some of the highlights from what's been a half an hour of on-track action, Johnny.
Superb to get the GT3 cars out first of all, with the majority of them Ferraris, and congratulations once more to Kessel Racing, to Sergio Pianazzola and Giacomo Piccini for taking the first pole position of the 2018 Michelin Le Mans Cup. And leaving it late, Eric Trouillet will start on pole position for today's race that starts from 4 p.m. Central European time. Goodbye for now.